The world of the Ice Age was a world of light and shadow, life and death. Our ancestors lived their lives in the sunlit mouths of caves at the edge of the great wilderness. But for a chosen few, the true journey began where the light ended. A descent into the deep absolute darkness of the earth. This was not a journey for shelter or safety. It was a pilgrimage into a sacred, terrifying underworld. Armed with nothing but a flickering animal fat lamp, these first explorers would squeeze through impossibly tight passages, crawl on their bellies through dusty tunnels, and navigate treacherous underground rivers. This was a physical and psychological ordeal, a deliberate journey away from the world of the living. Their destination, the vast, silent galleries deep within the earth. Here, in the flickering, dancing light of their lamps, they prepared their tools. This was the first artist's toolkit. Pigments, ground from minerals, red and yellow ochre for the colors of life and earth, black manganese oxide for the darkness and the void, binders to give the paint substance, animal fat, plant sap, even saliva, and applicators, brushes made from twigs and animal hair, pads of moss for shading, and hollow reeds or their own mouths to spray the pigment onto the walls. The canvas was the earth itself. The cave walls were not flat surfaces. The artists, with a genius born of deep observation, used the natural curves, bulges, and cracks in the rock to give their creations a breathtaking, three-dimensional life. A natural protrusion in the stone becomes the powerful shoulder of a charging bison. A crack in the surface becomes a bleeding spear wound. The animal was not just painted onto the rock, it was revealed from within it, and what they painted were the souls of their world. The great beasts of the Ice Age, rendered with a dynamism and realism that still shocks us today. Herds of horses, massive aurochs, woolly rhinos, and lions stalking their prey. These were not the simple stick figures of a child. This was the work of true masters, of keen observers who understood the anatomy and the spirit of the animals they depicted. They descended into darkness, into a world of silence and fear. And on the walls of this underworld, they created a universe of life. The greatest question in all of human prehistory is why? The paintings were not for decoration. They were not for public display. They were created in the deepest, most inaccessible parts of the caves for a powerful, secret purpose. The most widely accepted theory is that this art was a form of hunting magic. For the Ice Age hunter, life was a precarious balance. The great beasts they hunted were not just a source of food, but also objects of immense power and spiritual significance. To kill a mammoth or a bison was to confront a god. The hunters believed that by capturing an animal's image on the wall, they could gain a degree of control over its spirit in the real world. The act of painting was a ritual. The artist may have been a shaman, a spiritual leader who could mediate between the world of humans and the world of spirits. In the flickering, hypnotic light of the lamps deep within the earth, the shaman would enter a trance-like state. The paintings were the visions he brought back from this journey into the spirit world. We see evidence of this in the paintings themselves. Many of the animals are depicted with spears or arrows striking their bodies. These were not records of a past hunt, but a magical rehearsal for a future one. By killing the animal's image on the wall, the shaman was ensuring the success of the hunters in the sunlit world above. It was a way to stack the odds in their favor in the dangerous game of survival. Furthermore, the art seems to focus almost exclusively on the large, powerful, and often dangerous prey animals. We rarely see paintings of the smaller animals that were a regular part of their diet, nor do we see paintings of the surrounding landscape. No trees, no rivers, no mountains. The focus was entirely on the great hunt, the central drama of their existence. The caves themselves were likely seen as sacred spaces, portals to the underworld where the animal spirits resided. The act of painting was a way to connect with these spirits, to appease them, to ask for their sacrifice so that the clan might live. The handprints, stenciled in ochre on the walls, might have been the signatures of those who participated in the ritual, a way of touching the spirit world directly. This was not art for art's sake. It was functional, desperate, and sacred. It was a tool as vital to their survival as the stone-tipped spear. The spear fed the body, but the paintings fed the soul, giving the hunters the courage and the spiritual conviction they needed to face the terrifying beasts of their world. The theory of hunting magic is powerful, but it doesn't explain everything. The art of the Ice Age is far stranger and more complex than a simple ritual for a successful hunt. Deeper within the caves, we find images that suggest a far more sophisticated and mysterious purpose. We find the therianthropes, the half-human, half-animal figures. The famous sorcerer of the Trois Frères cave in France, a creature with the antlers of a stag, the eyes of an owl, and the body of a man. These are not prey animals. They are visions, gods, spirits, or shamans captured in the very act of transformation. This was not just magic to control the hunt. This was the birth of complex religion, a map of a spiritual cosmos. And what about the symbols? For decades, archaeologists focused on the magnificent animals, largely ignoring the strange geometric signs painted beside them. The lines, the dots, the grids, the claviforms. We now believe these were not random decorations. They may be the first code, a form of proto-writing, a system for storing and transmitting information. A series of dots next to a horse might not be a spiritual symbol, but a calendar, marking the number of months until the horse herds would migrate through the valley. Some theories are even more breathtaking. In the Great Hall of the Bulls at Lascaux, a cluster of dots above a bull's shoulder perfectly matches the star cluster of the Pleiades. Another nearby pattern of dots and lines on a bull's face mirrors the Hyades cluster, which forms the head of the constellation Taurus. Were these Ice Age hunters also the first astronomers, mapping the night sky to predict seasons and track time? And then there is the famous shaft scene, depicting a bison, a man, and a bird. Some researchers have suggested this is not a hunting scene at all, but a historical record of a cataclysmic event, a comet striking the Earth thousands of years ago, with the animals representing the constellations in the sky at the time of the impact. The cave, then, was not just a temple. It was an observatory, a classroom, and a history book written in symbols. An elder could use the paintings to teach the young which animals to hunt, when they would appear, and where to find them. The art was a visual encyclopedia, a textbook for survival passed down through the darkness. Hunting magic, shamanic vision, astronomical chart, historical record, educational tool. The truth is likely a tapestry woven from all these threads. The echoes in the dark are not just one single note. They are a complex symphony of the burgeoning human intellect, a species grappling with the fundamental questions of its existence and its place in the cosmos. For nearly 30,000 years, this incredible artistic tradition flourished. From the caves of Spain to the plains of Germany, our ancestors painted, carved, and sang their cosmos into existence. But then, as the last great ice age came to an end, the art began to fade. The world was changing. The glaciers retreated, the climate warmed, and the dense forests spread across what was once open steppe. The great herds of mammoths, bison, and woolly rhinos, the central characters in their artistic and spiritual drama, vanished forever. The hunter's paradise was gone. Humanity's way of life was forced to change, and with it, their art. The new world, the world of the forest and the farm, required a new way of thinking, a new set of beliefs. The deep caves, once portals to the underworld of the great animal spirits, lost their power. Their entrances became overgrown, their locations forgotten, their masterpieces sealed away in the darkness for millennia. The echoes in the dark fell silent. But what was their legacy? This first great explosion of human creativity was not a dead end. It was the foundation of everything that would follow. The ability to think in symbols, to create a world of meaning beyond the physical, is the very definition of what it is to be human. The mind that could see a god in the stars and an animal spirit in the rock was the same mind that would later develop writing, mathematics, and philosophy. The shaman's ritual was the ancestor of all religion. The storyteller's mural was the ancestor of all art, literature, and cinema. When the first of these caves, Altamira in Spain, was rediscovered in the 19th century, the world was stunned. The art was so sophisticated, so powerful, that for decades experts refused to believe it was prehistoric. They thought it had to be a modern forgery. They could not accept that primitive cavemen were capable of such genius, but they were. The first artists were not simple, grunting savages. They were people exactly like us, with complex minds, deep emotions, and a burning need to understand their place in the universe and leave a mark of their existence. The echoes from those dark caves are a profound and humbling reminder. They are the voices of our most distant ancestors, reaching out across an unimaginable gulf of time. They remind us that the quest for meaning, the drive to create, and the need to tell our story are the most ancient and enduring parts of the human spirit.